After giving birth, Emily's sister fled the country. Emily embraced the abandoned infant, claiming to be the woman who had spent that fateful night with the Julian family's crown prince. Leveraging the child, she secured her place and became Mrs. Julian. 7 years later, her sister returned, gently cradling the child in her arms. Her sister looked at Emily and said that Emily had occupied her position for long enough, and it was time to give it back. Emily fell silent for a long moment before agreeing, making only one condition. She asked for a sum of money, promising that once she was completely settled abroad, her sister could reveal the truth. Otherwise, with Liam Julian's vengeful nature, if he found out Emily had deceived him for 7 years, it would be a miracle if he didn't kill her. "Mom," Austin Julian said, standing at the door with his backpack, looking at Emily. "What's wrong?" Emily smiled, walked over, and stroked his head, asking if school had been tiring today. "There was a lady who said she is my mom's sister," the boy said hesitantly, looking at Emily. Emily froze for a long time before snapping out of it. "She looks a bit like you, Mom," Austin said, grabbing her hand. "But when I called her auntie, she wasn't happy. She said she isn't my aunt." Emily's fingertips trembled, and her voice turned dry as she asked if the woman had said anything else. The boy obediently replied, "She told me that if I told you about this, you would contact her." Emily leaned against the wall, feeling dizzy. 7 years ago, Harper, right after giving birth to Austin, had insisted on leaving, refusing to take even the child with her. Emily had tried to stop Harper, arguing that her sister hadn't even finished her postpartum recovery yet, and suggested sending the child to the Julian family, questioning how they could truly abandon their own flesh and blood. Her sister's voice had been filled with despair, explaining that she had kept the baby secretly. She asked how they could possibly respect her or let her through their door, concluding that the best outcome would just be the mother being discarded while the child was kept. Emily had fallen silent for a long time and asked about the baby. Her sister had resolutely stated that taking the child abroad would only be a burden, telling Emily to leave the baby at the gates of an orphanage. Harper left, leaving Emily and her sister's child behind in the bitter winter of that year. Emily had been incredibly poor back then, but she couldn't bring herself to abandon the baby, who was so tiny and wrinkled like a raisin. Therefore, she held the baby and walked up to the gates of the Julian estate. She pretended not to see the scrutinizing, contemptuous, and disgusted stares directed at her. She stated that she wanted to see Liam Julian, claiming she had given birth to his child. Contrary to Harper's predictions, Emily was not kicked out. Instead, she was immediately invited inside for a father-son DNA test. When Liam returned, the matriarch of the Julian family calmly announced that the Julian family now had a successor. The tall, straight figure of the man only threw a cold glance at Emily. Guilty, Emily lowered her head. She had only dared to take such a gamble because she had heard the details from Harper, who had told her that she and Liam hadn't turned on the lights that night, so Liam didn't clearly know the woman's face. However, when the man stood before Emily, exuding such heavy pressure, she still couldn't help but feel terrified and anxious. Fortunately, Liam said nothing and didn't even look at the child. The matriarch of the Julian family coughed softly, noting that it hadn't been easy for the girl to carry the pregnancy for 10 months. Liam interrupted, stating he would marry her. Everyone was stunned, and Emily was equally dazed. Coming there so abruptly, she had only intended to leave the child with the Julian family, having never thought about where she herself would go. The atmosphere froze for a long time before Liam's gaze drifted over Emily's face, remarking that he would redeem himself for the sin he had committed. The matriarch pondered for a moment, rubbing her forehead, and told him that since he had decided, he should go prepare for the wedding. At that moment, Emily gripped her dress tightly. She didn't know what Liam's motive was. He was not short of marriage prospects, and there were plenty of women in Bayview who wanted to be a stepmother to his son. Yet, he was willing to marry a woman who had secretly given birth to his child without saying a word. Perhaps he wanted to give the child a complete family. Emily couldn't know, for she was just a poor woman. Emily had suffered, and having the opportunity to marry into a wealthy family was something she didn't want to miss. Not to mention, that baby was her sister's child, meaning they shared a blood connection. Therefore, she raised her head, smiled at Liam Julian, and declared that she would become a good wife and a good mother. Just like that, some lies once begun could drag on for 7 years. "Why are you so distracted today?" Liam wrapped his arm around her waist, calmly tilting his head to glance at her. Emily snapped out of her daze and leaned into his embrace, whispering softly, "Austin has lost so much weight lately. If he gets any thinner, he'll be nothing but bones. Liam frowned, his voice a bit cold. You spend too much of your energy on him. As he spoke, he gripped her chin, leaving no room for resistance, and leaned down to kiss her. It wasn't until she was breathless that he finally let her go. He held her waist and placed her on his lap. Looking down from above, Liam said, "You have something on your mind." He was always so sharp that it was intimidating, but Emily had long gotten used to it. She immediately continued to use their son as an excuse, saying anxiously, "Austin's teacher said he rarely interacts with his friends at school. Do you think we should take him to see a psychologist?" "I'm afraid he—" "Emily," Liam interrupted, his dark eyes deep. "You should find your own things to do." Emily hesitated, then sighed. "All right." She sat on Liam's lap, watching his long, slender fingers tap on the keyboard, handling his work neatly. He didn't ask any further, meaning Emily had temporarily escaped disaster. But Harper had returned. No matter how much she tried to hide, she couldn't avoid this issue. As soon as her sister threw a maternity DNA test report between herself and Austin into the Julian estate, all the lies would collapse. A fraud like her would naturally be exposed for what she was. Several days had passed, and she still hadn't contacted Harper. Emily unconsciously clenched her fingers, taking a deep breath and then letting out a sigh. She inhaled again, and sighed again. Liam couldn't stand it anymore. He snapped his laptop shut, his eyes narrowing dangerously. "Stop worrying about Austin. Worry about yourself first." When her nightgown was pushed up, Emily's mind instantly cleared, and she hurriedly pushed him away. Wait, I just remembered I have something to do. That's right, I need to bake a cake for Austin." Using one hand, he pinned both of her wrists above her head and made her bite down on the hem of her pulled-up dress. He lowered his head, a smirk on his lips. "You talk too much, baby." Emily let out a muffled whimper, glaring at him. Liam supported her waist, his voice deep and low. "You look cute when you make that sound." She didn't know how much time had passed. Emily lay flat on the sofa, feeling as if she had nothing left to live for. Liam, already calm and properly dressed, leaned down to place a kiss on her forehead. "I'm heading to the company. Don't wait up for dinner." She nodded, utterly exhausted. The relationship between her and Liam was very strange. They were more intimate than a normal married couple, but there was absolutely no passionate love. He rarely ate at home and paid very little attention to Austin. Only when he was with her did he show a hint of gentleness, but it was just a hint. Aside from that matter, they didn't have much to talk about. She groggily fell asleep on the sofa in the master bedroom until she heard the sound of the first-floor door opening. Austin was home from school. Emily put on her slippers and went downstairs. "Austin, why are you late today?" Her voice suddenly hitched. Harper was holding Austin's hand, standing at the door. Her lips trembled for a long time before she could speak. "Harper," Austin smiled radiantly. "Mom, after school, Auntie took me to the amusement park." Emily forced a smile, taking it step by step as she walked over and knelt to pinch his cheek. "Did the butler and the driver go with you?" The boy nodded. She smiled. "That's good, but next time you have to let the butler call Mom first, okay?" He nodded again. Harper suddenly spoke up. "I didn't expect you to have the makings of a mother." Hearing her sister's voice, Emily looked up. Harper's appearance hadn't changed much compared to 7 years ago. She was still wearing a long coat and carrying a designer bag, no longer looking as pathetic as she did when she left Bayview that year. Emily didn't reply. Harper gently pulled Austin into her arms and said to Emily, "You've occupied my position for long enough. It's time to give it back." Her tone wasn't harsh, so Austin didn't notice anything unusual. He just blinked innocently. "What position?" Emily froze, unconsciously clenching her fists. Harper lowered her voice, just enough so that only she and Emily could hear. "We're sisters. You impersonated me and took my place for so long, and I'm not making a fuss about it. But if you want to tear this relationship apart, you don't have a chance of winning." After saying that, she placed her hand on Austin's shoulder and smiled at Emily. "Austin," Emily asked, her voice hoarse, "did you have fun playing today?" Austin's personality was just like Liam's, not very lively. He rarely smiled, yet today he smiled up at Harper. "I had a lot of fun." "Then," Emily spoke with difficulty, "for the parent-teacher conference the day after tomorrow, if both Mom and Auntie can go, who would you rather have go?" The boy blanked for a moment, then hesitantly grabbed Harper's hand. Emily sat in stunned silence for a long time before gently patting his back. "Go up to your room and do your homework, okay?" After Austin left, Emily and Harper looked at each other for a long time. Emily let out a mocking laugh. "I can leave. Give me a sum of money, wait until I'm completely settled abroad, then you can tell the truth." Otherwise, with Liam's vengeful nature, if he finds out I've lied to him for 7 years, it'd be a miracle if he doesn't kill me. Harper frowned. How much do you want? I've raised your son for so long, I'll take a step back. 10 million. Harper scoffed. Just a moment ago, I was praising you. Using the child in exchange for money, don't you feel ashamed? Emily looked at her. After a few minutes of haggling, Harper finally agreed. Fine, but I only have 2 million on hand right now, enough for you to live on for a while. Once everything settles down, I'll pay you the rest. Emily softly replied, all right. That evening, Liam texted her, I'm not coming home tonight. Okay, honey, Emily replied decisively. He texted back. Emily stared at that question mark. Previously, to maintain the image of a virtuous wife and good mother, every time Liam didn't come home, she would always carefully add a few sweet remarks. For instance, honey, don't work too hard, or honey, I'll be waiting for you at home, or amor, are you coming home tomorrow, and so on. But an image was just an image. Her role as the good wife was about to end, and she was too lazy to keep acting. She stretched and started packing her luggage. After packing for a while, she realized she couldn't bear to leave anything behind. The clothes, the necklaces, the handbags, they were all her precious treasures. So she had someone bring up 5 large suitcases. The more she packed, the more absorbed she became, to the point that when Liam opened the bedroom door and leaned against the frame expressionlessly, she didn't even notice. It wasn't until the 5 suitcases were neatly packed and she rubbed her waist that she met his deep, bottomless gaze. Emily froze. Good evening, darling husband. Didn't you say you weren't coming home? The corners of his lips curled up slightly, his voice terrifyingly gentle. If I didn't come home, where were you planning to go? Ah, well, Emily forced a smile to explain. Lately, I've been so worried about Austin that I haven't been sleeping well. I was planning to go out and clear my head for a while. Liam looked at her for a long time. Unexpectedly, he didn't give her a hard time. He just nodded. All right. Emily pressed her lips together. While I'm not home, please spend more time with Austin. He's quiet and you two rarely talk. Also, tell the kitchen to cook more meat dishes. He's a growing boy. Emily, Liam said, growing a bit impatient. Even if you aren't here, no one in the Julian family will let him suffer. Emily paused. That was true. Honestly, she still wanted to say more. Like how happy she had been living with the Julian family these past few years, how the matriarch had never made things difficult for her, and how Austin was such a good child. Moreover, she couldn't bear to leave Liam. But the woman who had spent that night with him wasn't her, and she wasn't the child's biological mother either. She had taken her sister's place to live this life of luxury for so many years. That was enough. Yet why did she still feel this lingering sadness? Liam turned around, his tone indifferent. Stay out as long as you like. There's no rush to come back. He walked toward the study without a hint of reluctance. Emily curled her fingers and softly replied, okay. The flight took over 10 hours. As soon as she landed, Emily received a photo sent by Harper. Austin was sitting quietly beside her, drawing. The drawing showed a woman with long, curly hair holding a coffee cup. He had drawn Harper. Emily stared at it for a long time. After all, blood ties could not be severed. Their natural closeness was only normal. I wish you both happiness, she replied. She meant it sincerely, but her sister texted back, you didn't do a very good job raising Austin either. Emily wanted to explain that over the past few years, she had been deeply devoted to her roles as Austin's mother and Liam's wife. However, she feared that in Harper's eyes, those words would seem like a provocation, so she said nothing more. She only replied, he has you now. If possible, please make up for my shortcomings. Harper didn't message back. Emily stayed in a small town in Texas. The people, scenery, and language were all unfamiliar, requiring her to use a translation app, but the landscape was truly as beautiful as a movie. A few days later, Liam messaged her. Austin really likes a new teacher. I've asked her to stay at the house. Oh, she replied. Yes, he texted. Emily answered, okay. She didn't need to ask to know who it was. It was for the best. It would help the mother and son bond. Harper, who had rarely posted on social media for a long time, was now constantly sharing photos featuring Austin. The boy in the pictures even showed a shy smile occasionally. Emily had once thought he didn't know how to smile. She turned off her phone. During her first few days there, she wasn't used to it at all. For years, her entire life had revolved around Liam and Austin, leaving her with almost no time for herself. Suddenly having so much free time, besides studying the language, she didn't know what else to do. Slowly, she deleted all of Austin's photos from her phone and forwarded all of the school teacher's contact information to Harper. That was until she saw a photo of Liam and Harper walking together on an entertainment news site. The atmosphere between them left much to the imagination. Emily blinked slowly, her heart feeling as if a piece were missing. It turned out that Harper was now in charge of a famous foreign fashion magazine. Some people in the domestic fashion industry recognized her face, and everyone praised them as a perfect match. Emily laughed at herself mockingly. Not only were they a perfect match, but they also had a child together. The day the $2 million was transferred, she quickly deleted all the accounts on her phone and inserted a new SIM card she had prepared long ago. Sure enough, less than a few hours after the money hit her account, the news headline, "The young master of the Julian family has a different biological mother," trended on the hot search. But by this time, no one could reach her anymore. She had also swiftly transferred those $2 million to another account. Emily suppressed the chaotic emotions in her heart while eating freshly baked cookies. As for the divorce papers left on the nightstand, Harper had probably handed them over to Liam by now. From now on, the world was vast and free. She was no longer Mrs. Julian. On the day Liam and Harper held their makeup wedding, Emily was lounging on a chair, sunbathing. "Emily," she heard someone call. She knew right away who it was. It was Olivia, a teenage girl from next door who loved to come over and hang out. She had black hair, freckled cheeks, and blue eyes that always looked at people with a radiant smile. The girl showed her a translation device. "Oh my gosh, I was just scrolling and saw a newlywed couple from your city. The woman looks a bit like you." The girl swiped through a few more pictures. Emily couldn't read the foreign text, but she recognized the photos. Emily froze. Harper was wearing a modest, high-necked wedding dress, smiling radiantly as she linked arms with Liam. Austin was walking behind them, carrying a flower basket. They look like such a perfect couple. The neighbor girl, imitating the pronunciation on the translation device, stuttering as she read it out loud. "Of course," Emily smiled, rubbing the neighbor girl's head. The neighbor's family was quite large. The girl had a 16-year-old older brother and a 4-year-old younger brother. The two boys ran into Emily's yard one after the other. Emily skillfully brought out some cookies from the house. "I added more sugar this time. Try it and see if it's different." The three children chattered happily around her. Emily couldn't help but smile as she looked at them. Then, she saw the man who was supposed to be celebrating his wedding today standing at the yard's gate. His gaze swept across the yard excruciatingly slowly before landing on her. The lively noise suddenly died down. The girl looked at her phone in panic, then over at Liam. His leather shoes crunched heavily against the grass as he walked right up to her. The back of his hand brushed very slowly across her cheek. The gesture could even be called gentle. He leaned down and asked, "Running away from home just to raise someone else's kids?" Emily took a step back, avoiding his touch. The girl hurriedly pulled her two brothers away, even raising her fist in a cheering gesture for Emily before leaving. Emily's lips trembled as she tried to explain. "It's true that I didn't give birth to Austin, but I raised him. Even if I don't get any credit, I still put in the hard work. Besides, I am Harper's biological sister." Her voice shook slightly. "I'm sorry for interfering in your relationship for so long. I wish you and her a lifetime of happiness." The air was dead silent. A long time later, he let out a cold laugh. "Austin misses you very much." Emily was stunned. "If it weren't for me," Liam lowered his eyes to look at her, a glint of coldness flashing in them. "Did you think Harper had $8 million to spare for you?" Emily immediately looked up, only for him to pinch her chin with such force that it made her cry out in pain. "Come back to Bayview with me," he said curtly. She remained silent for a very long time. "No." Liam coldly stroked her cheek. "You lied to me for so long, and you're still acting stubborn." Emily pressed her lips together. "You were the one who said you would marry me back then. I didn't force you into it." "Yeah," he looked at her calmly. "If you don't come back, I won't need Harper or Austin anymore." "What did you say?" Emily couldn't believe it. He said indifferently, "I'll marry another woman and have another child, completely legitimately." He said the last two words very slowly and clearly. Her eyes wavered. She knew Liam was a man of his word. Emily followed Liam back to Bayview. The Julian estate was vast, but the atmosphere was stifling. When the butler saw her, he called out, "Madam." Embarrassed, Emily waved her hand. "I'm not your madam anymore. Ha, you've got a replacement." She shifted her gaze and immediately saw a small figure. Austin was standing in the corner, quietly looking at her. A moment later, the boy turned and walked away. Emily couldn't help but call out, "Austin." He didn't stop. Liam leaned against the doorframe, his voice nonchalant. "Austin Julian." That small figure stopped. "Don't you know how to greet an adult?" Austin turned around, wearing overalls and holding a book. His small, not yet fully grown face was expressionless. What should I call her? Mom or Auntie? The atmosphere froze. Finally, Emily smiled, breaking the silence. Call me Auntie. Austin stared at her for a few seconds, then turned and ran upstairs. Emily didn't chase after him. Liam asked curiously. Before, every time you two argued, you would chase after him to coax him. Why aren't you doing it now? Emily shook her head. That's Harper's job now. Harper doesn't know how to coax him, Liam said dismissively. Hearing him say it with such absolute certainty, she blanked for a moment. Well, then it's not my job either. Liam showed no reaction. She didn't know when the living room lights had been dimmed. The butler and the maids had also retreated a long time ago. Liam looked at her, his gaze so calm that it made her uneasy. Then he closed the distance step by step. You lied to me for 7 years, and you planned to just leave like that? Emily, it's time we settled our score. Emily was thrown onto the bed before she could even react. Liam pulled off his tie, binding her hands together. He let out a cold laugh. You're not allowed to say things that ruin the mood. As his long, slender fingers unbuttoned her shirt, a single teardrop fell onto his hand. His movements paused, and he looked up at her. Why are you crying? He asked. Emily didn't answer. Her tears just kept falling. His fingertips roughly wiped away her tears. His voice carried a hint of frustration. Speak. Her mind was in chaos. So many emotions rushed in all at once that ultimately she could only cover her eyes with her hands and sob softly. Do you hate me that much? Liam finally spoke after a long time, his voice devoid of any emotion. So just to keep the child in the Julian family, you really endured years of humiliation. Liam left. Emily watched his retreating back, slowly curling herself up in the blankets. Perhaps if she had just left Austin at the gates of the Julian estate back then, none of these subsequent events would have happened. She had always been a very weak person. When bullied at school, she never dared to fight back. When her phone was snatched on the street, she didn't dare to chase after the thief. It was Harper who, time and time again, would scold her while helping her out. She would grab a brick and chase the hooligans away, or sprint after the thief to snatch Emily's phone back. And the bravest thing Emily had ever done in her life was impersonating her sister to marry into the Julian family. Emily. She heard a clear voice call out and groggily lifted her head. Austin stood in the shadows by the door, quietly looking at her. He didn't know what to call her, so he simply called her by her name. Why are you crying? He asked. Because, Emily looked into his eyes, perhaps I've done a lot of things wrong. Austin walked toward her step by step. His small hands wiped away her tears. After that, he lifted the blanket and crawled in. He didn't say anything, and she remained silent too. Feeling embarrassed and not daring to continue crying in front of him, she asked, What's wrong? Are you afraid of sleeping alone? He pressed his lips together. Yeah. Emily unlocked her phone, intending to call Harper. Austin placed his hand over hers to stop her. Huh? He didn't explain, but resolutely refused to let her make the call. Helpless, she put the phone down. Did you two have an argument? Harper had always had a strong personality. She probably wouldn't be the first to make peace. His hands were freezing. Emily held them to warm them up. The room fell into a quiet stillness. Go to sleep early, she said. You still have to go to school tomorrow, right? He burrowed deeper into the blankets. Emily pulled the blanket back, tucking it just up to his shoulders. You can't cover yourself completely like that. You'll suffocate. He closed his eyes. She stared blankly at his soft black hair for a long time, her eyelids also gradually growing heavy. Her nerves, which had been tense for days, finally relaxed, and she immediately fell asleep. Liam pushed the door open and walked in, met with this exact scene. His expression was hidden in the shadows, his gaze fixed on one spot. The king-size bed was completely occupied by the large and small figures, leaving no room for him. He let out a soft, cold laugh. The person who had just been crying so heartbreakingly was now sleeping so soundly. Liam stood at the door for a long time before finally turning around and heading to the guest room. The next morning, when Emily went downstairs, Austin had already left for school. Liam was sitting on the sofa, his long legs crossed. He was resting his fingers against his temples and only slightly narrowed his eyes when he heard the noise. Beside him was an elegant, modest dress made of premium materials. The man lifted his chin. Put it on. Come back to the main estate with me. Follow him back? Emily hurriedly shook her head in refusal. Then what about Harper? Liam threw the dress into her lap, his voice indifferent, as he repeated, You're coming with me. Emily hesitantly took the dress. The car drove smoothly to the Julian estate. The matriarch of the Julian family was sitting at the head of the table waiting for them. She took a sip of tea. Liam's father had died in an accident 8 years ago, and since then, Liam had taken over the entire corporation. The chairman had passed away, stocks had plummeted, and when he took over, the entire corporation was in chaos. In just half a year, he had reorganized everything neatly and systematically. The business circle in Bayview all said that a tiger father begets a tiger son. And furthermore, Liam was a decisive and ruthless business genius. The matriarch of the Julian family couldn't control her son, nor had she ever made things difficult for his wife. She didn't ask about recent events, only during the meal. During dinner, the matriarch gently asked Emily, "Why hasn't there been any news about your belly yet?" Emily froze. In the past, there hadn't been any news because she thought they already had Austin and didn't need to have another. Liam had also accommodated her, always using safe measures. Later on, it was even more impossible. Weighing her words carefully, she replied, "Don't we already have Austin?" The matriarch's gaze swept past her and stopped on Liam. He didn't say anything, merely tapping his fingertips lightly against the table. The matriarch casually said, "Have another one, so Austin can have a companion." Emily didn't answer. Liam calmly replied, "Let's leave it for later." The matriarch rolled the prayer beads in her hand and didn't say anything more, but Emily felt her expression was slightly strange, as if there was still something left unsaid. After dinner, Liam received a phone call and had to return to the company. He planned to take Emily with him. The matriarch forced a smile and said, "Let Emily stay and take a walk with me for a bit. I'm getting old, and my digestion isn't what it used to be." Liam refused on Emily's behalf. "There are so many people in the house, Mother. You can find anyone to take a walk with you." The matriarch's smile vanished. "What do you mean by that? Do you think I would bully her?" Sensing the atmosphere growing increasingly tense, Emily hurriedly spoke up. "Liam, you go ahead to work. I'll take a walk with Mother. It's been a while since I've had a chance to chat with her." Liam lowered his eyes, looked at her for a few seconds, then turned and left. Emily withdrew her gaze, smiled, and sat next to the matriarch. "Let me help you up." She held Emily's hand back and sighed. Then, she took off the emerald green jade bracelet from her own wrist and slipped it onto Emily's. Emily panicked. "No, Mother, I can't accept this." The matriarch shook her head. "This kind of jade is a bit fragile, but the color suits you." A strange feeling welled up in Emily's heart. For 7 years, that bracelet had never been given to her. Why was it that right when Harper returned, she gave it to her? The matriarch suddenly said, "Emily, you and Liam are not getting any younger. Have another child. A boy or a girl is fine. Having more laughter in the house would be good." Emily forced a smile. "Mother, this kind of thing can't be forced. Besides, Austin is at school age. If we have another one, I'm afraid he might overthink things." "Tell me the truth," the older woman frowned. "Is it that you don't want to have one, or Liam doesn't want to?" Emily pressed her lips together. "We just haven't thought about it. One child is enough." "You don't want to give him another child?" she asked abruptly. Emily was stunned. Actually, when they first got married, she had thought about it, but she felt that it would be unfair to Austin. She asked herself, if a child of her and Liam's was born, would she be able to treat both absolutely equally, without the slightest bit of favoritism? Could she continue to pour all her attention and love into Austin like before? She hadn't dared to take that gamble, so she had given up on the idea. The matriarch said nothing more, only gently patting Emily's hand. When Emily returned to the villa, she was surprised to find Harper sitting by the table in the first-floor living room. She was waiting for her. Their eyes met. Harper said softly, "I'm leaving." "What do you mean?" Emily didn't understand. Harper wore sunglasses. "Things in the country aren't as good as I thought. Besides, my connections and resources are all abroad." Emily digested her words for a moment. "Then what about Austin? The Julian family definitely won't let you take him abroad." Harper frowned. "Who said I'm taking him with me?" "You're not planning to take him?" Emily snatched Harper's sunglasses off, staring into her beautiful phoenix eyes. She couldn't help but raise her voice. "Did you come back just to let him know his biological mother is someone else? And now that you've said it, you're leaving again? You don't want him again?" Harper blinked slowly, then nodded. "Yes." Emily raised her hand and slapped her across the face. Harper's head snapped to the side. Emily's voice trembled. "Back then, I was the one who carried him to the Julian estate. I was the one who raised him for 7 whole years. You said I stole your position. Fine, I gave it back. And now you're leaving again? Harper, you've abandoned him twice. What about me?" Towards the end, she whispered as if asking herself, "What about me?" Harper seemed to catch the underlying meaning, her gaze faltering for a moment. For the first time, Harper revealed a flustered expression. Emily's eyes were red. Back then, when you went abroad, I couldn't stop you. I only hoped that your child could live the best life possible. When you came back and felt that my position would give you a better life, I also agreed to step aside. In your eyes, I might be a bad person, but I have a clear conscience regarding all these past years." Emily choked up, closing her eyes. "I really, really missed you." Harper's fingers trembled slightly. She remained silent for a long time. "Austin is not Liam's son." Something seemed to shatter in the air. Harper leaned against the back of the chair, her gaze fading. "They are not biological father and son." Emily's voice trembled. "What did you say?" "Of course, he is my son," Harper said, taking a cigarette out of her pocket. "Let's go out to the balcony," Emily said. Harper nodded. "Liam had a twin brother, did you know that?" Harper asked. Emily thought for a moment. "I've never heard him mention him." "He died in a car accident along with their father," Harper said, smiling sadly. "Right before he died, he said he was close to finding me and that he would marry me. He had seen me through a camera and even had photos, bragging to everyone about how beautiful I was." Emily struggled to adjust her emotions, still not understanding. "Then why did you think it was Liam?" Harper exhaled the smoke, looking off into the distance. "I only just found out, too. The spiked glass of wine back then was originally meant for Liam, but his brother drank it by mistake." She leaned against the balcony railing, her face partially hidden in the white smoke. She let out a soft chuckle. "As long as I spent the night with Liam and got the proof, I would receive 200,000. She held up her hand. 200,000 was so much. But when I woke up the next morning, that person was already gone. All that was left was a child." Emily wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. The cigarette burned all the way down to Harper's fingers, blistering her skin, yet she remained completely oblivious. "When they named him, didn't you find it strange?" Harper asked. "Why choose a name with such an unlucky meaning?" Emily had truly never thought about it. She had just thought the name sounded pleasant and quite nice. A moment later, Emily said, "You told me to leave, but now you are leaving, so what about Austin?" Furthermore, her throat went dry. "You and Liam are already married." The night wind blew past, and Harper pulled her coat tighter. "He hasn't signed those divorce papers." Emily froze. "What?" Harper turned to face her. "That wedding was fake. As for the truth, you should just ask him yourself." She gently patted Emily's shoulder, preparing to leave. "Harper," Emily suddenly spoke up. "I am not a saint. It's not like I'll just leave when you tell me to leave, and stay when you tell me to stay." She looked at her sister and smiled. "For all these years, I've been very confused. It wasn't until you appeared that I realized the position of Mrs. Julian isn't actually that important to me. I can accept losing it. I can also accept losing Liam and Austin, and you too. No, actually, I already lost you on that night 7 years ago." Emily lowered her voice. "If you want to leave, just go. I won't stay either." Harper turned her head. Emily couldn't clearly see her expression, but she could hear her trembling voice. "Emily, after our parents died, we relied on each other for decades. I hated you. I always thought that if it weren't for you, my life would be much easier. Do you know why I had to get that 200,000 back then? Because you said you didn't want to go to college because there was no tuition money." Her voice was hoarse. "If I just had that 200,000, it would have been enough. But in the end, I didn't get the money. I had nothing. And you didn't go to college either. I am truly, truly such a failure." She lowered her head, laughing mockingly at herself. "I used to think Liam was the baby's father, and I also wanted to see if you would be willing to step back for my sake. I was wrong. You were willing to step back, and the truth slapped me hard in the face. From beginning to end, I've lived like a joke. From beginning to end, Liam has only ever belonged to you." She took a voice recorder out of her pocket and shoved it into Emily's hand. "Austin. Austin too." Harper turned and walked away, the hem of her coat flying in the wind. She softly mouthed 3 words that scattered in the breeze. "I am sorry." When Emily sat on the bed listening to the voice recorder, her heart was strangely calm. The recording contained a conversation between Harper and Austin. "Why did you let me go to the parent-teacher conference instead of your aunt?" Harper's voice asked. "Does she scold you often?" "No," Austin replied. "It's just that every time there's a parent-teacher conference, the teachers say I talk too little, and she worries about it endlessly. I'm just too lazy to talk to other people. I don't want her to have to worry anymore." "You drew Emily really beautifully. Draw me too," Harper coaxed. Austin refused. "No. But if she knows you only drew her and didn't draw me, she'll be sad," Harper pointed out. The recorder was silent for a moment, then the rustling sound of a pen gliding across paper could be heard. "You don't seem to like smiling," Harper remarked. It's whatever, Austin replied. Then let me tell you a story about Emily, Harper offered. She's been timid since she was little. Even when she was bullied, she didn't dare to fight back. Austin's voice finally wavered. Was she always bullied? Yeah, Harper said. She looked so fragile that everyone thought she was easy to bully. One time, she was cornered by a gang of hooligans in an alley, and she could only cry, not daring to fight back. Then what happened? Austin asked. Harper chuckled softly. Don't worry, I smashed all their heads in. She paused for a moment. Don't make that face. Smile. I'll tell you another happier story. Okay, Austin agreed. Where should I start? When she was 10, our parents had passed away by then, and I was learning how to bake from our neighbor. She followed me around every day, calling sister, sister. Yet when I told her to read a book, she would stutter and stumble all over the place. Emily quietly listened to the entire recording. Then she went downstairs. The butler nodded at her. Madam, Miss Harper has left. Emily turned around and saw Austin sitting on the sofa, his head bowed. She asked, Did you draw me? He froze for a moment, then looked up. Yes. She sat down beside him and rubbed his head. She wanted to say something but ultimately stayed silent. A moment later, she said, Let me see it. Austin fell silent. She took it away? Emily was stunned, not understanding. Didn't you draw both of us? Austin nodded. She took the drawing I did of you. Emily looked out the window. The wind seemed to be blowing stronger today. It was autumn again, and the autumn nights were chillingly cold. She wondered if Harper, who was currently on her way to the airport, would catch a cold. Are you leaving too? Austin asked softly. He had heard the conversation between her and Harper. Emily turned her gaze toward him, hesitating before shaking her head. I don't know. Probably yes. She thought Austin would be sad, that he would cry and not want her to leave. But he just held her hand. Where are you planning to go? Can I come visit you during the holidays? She pinched his cheek. But I'm not your biological mother. He let her pinch him without saying a word. She sighed and pulled him into a tight embrace. But I love you. Mom. His voice was as quiet as a mosquito's, his little hands gripping the fabric of her clothes tightly. After Austin fell asleep, Emily sat waiting for Liam in the living room. By the time he returned, it was already midnight. Seeing her, Liam paused for a moment. Why aren't you asleep yet? She shrugged. Waiting for you. Waiting for me for what? He looked at her, a smirk playing on his lips. Harper said you haven't signed the divorce papers. I'm here to remind you to sign them. Emily smiled faintly. After all, my young toy boy outside is demanding an official title. The smile on Liam's lips instantly stiffened, his gaze darkening. What did you just say? Do you want me to repeat it? I said. He strode over and pinched her chin. We're not divorced yet? You dare? Emily frowned. But you already held a wedding with my sister. What right do you have to blame me? There is absolutely nothing between her and me. Liam roared. Meeting her scrutinizing gaze, he suddenly paused. Then what about the photos of you two together? The news of the wedding making the hot search? What do you mean? Emily asked expressionlessly. It was fake, Liam said. She looked at him. He gritted his teeth. The photos of us walking together were taken by a reporter she hired. I had no idea. Right at that moment, I had already made the truth clear to her. As for the wedding photos, Harper begged me to take them. And then she had someone use AI to swap my face with my brother's. Emily frowned slightly. Then what about the wedding news trending on hot search? Liam laughed coldly. They were fake photos she doctored. I was the one who had someone contact your neighbor and ask that girl to show them to you. No wonder the matriarch of the Julian family hadn't asked anything about this matter. It turned out that no one else knew anything at all. Emily also let out a cold laugh. Did you give her money? Liam's voice was nonchalant. I just told her that my wife at home was making me angry, and I wanted her to come find me, that's all. He paused for a moment. Of course, I gave her a little money. Emily raised her hand and slapped him, unable to believe it. Are you crazy? When did I ever make you angry? Didn't you? He gritted his teeth. I haven't even blamed you for lying to me, yet you ran away first. Emily sneered. I'm afraid that the moment I carried Austin to the Julian estate, you all already knew I was lying. Everyone knew this child wasn't born to me, but to my sister. You also knew he wasn't Liam's son, but the son of your deceased younger brother. Finding out the truth from beginning to end would have been too easy if they wanted to. Liam remained silent. Emily wiped her face. Then why did you marry me? He parted his lips. At that time, I was being pressured to marry, and you appeared right on time. Liam leaned back against the sofa. After all, I had to raise the child anyway. Wasn't it better to choose someone who shared a blood connection with him? He tilted his head, his gaze carrying a hint of indifference. Or do you want to hear me say it was love at first sight? Emily waved her hand dismissively. I'm not that narcissistic. Where are the divorce papers? Sign them. Liam's expression turned gloomy. I don't have any kind of relationship with your sister. So what? Emily crossed her arms. I've thought it through. Living with a husband who refuses to open his mouth really isn't necessary. It made me anxious and fearful for so long. I may have lied to you for 7 years, but haven't you, Liam, also lied to me for those 7 years? Hearing this, he stood frozen in place. An unknown amount of time passed before he grabbed her wrist, slowly and with difficulty uttering, Can we not get divorced? Perhaps I really did fall in love with you at first sight back then. Emily raised an eyebrow, looking at him in complete surprise. She reached out and wagged her index finger. No. Emily started learning about investments and setting up her own studio, which took a lot of effort and money. Just as she was contemplating whether to let Liam, who was currently pursuing her, contribute a bit of effort, $2 million was transferred into her account. It was transferred by Harper. Her sister sent a message. The $1 million I promised you will not be a penny short, but I need time. Don't rush me. Emily snorted. Then she texted Liam. I don't need you anymore. I'm really busy. Austin, wearing his backpack, frequently came to find her. He was a very stubborn child, exactly like Liam. For instance, when she was busy and couldn't play with him, he would have a very hard time opening his mouth to ask, Mom, can you play with me? When she turned to look at him, he would fall silent again. As she continued working, he would walk over and tug at the hem of her clothes. Please play with me. I made cupcakes for you. Yeah, his baking skills were inherited from her. Liam also came to find her. As soon as he walked in, his tone was displeased. Your studio hires male staff too? They look just like a bunch of pretty boys. He scoffed disdainfully. Oh, Emily replied. He smirked. Do you not have anything you want to say? No. A moment later, Liam said, I'm jealous. Yeah. She nodded. He looked up, staring intently at her. Fine. Emily coaxed him. I'll watch a movie with you tonight, okay? Liam reluctantly accepted. Fine. Austin rested his chin on his hands. I want to go too. No, Liam replied. Austin wanted to go, but Liam refused to let him. Emily rested her chin on her hand, feeling helpless and exasperated with this life. Why couldn't a single day be peaceful? Oh well, the feeling wasn't too bad. In the hidden depths of Liam Julian's heart, he had always thought he was invincible in the stormy business world. He held the power of life and death. With a single word, the entire corporation would bow. Yet, he had lost in a gamble where no one dealt the cards and no one revealed their hands, a game where he silently bore the brunt alone. When Emily first carried the child to his estate, he already knew it wasn't his son. He didn't need a DNA test or an investigation. That child, Austin, didn't carry his blood, but his eyes were exactly like his younger brother's. The only person who had ever intended to bring a woman named Harper into his life. Even in death, his brother had left behind such a clear trace. Liam had looked at the other woman, Emily, Harper's younger sister. She hadn't cried, hadn't begged, and hadn't put on an act. She just stood there quietly, looking as if she would turn around and walk away without a second thought if he refused. That was why he said he would marry her. It wasn't because of the child, nor out of responsibility, but because he couldn't let anyone else touch her, even though he knew it was a lie. For 7 years, he didn't ask many questions. He didn't ask why the child didn't look like him. He didn't ask why, every time he came home, she avoided his gaze. She played the role of a perfect wife, to the point that it drove him crazy, because he knew she was hiding something. But what he couldn't stand was not knowing how to face it. A woman willing to swallow her pride, bow her head, and bear all the contemptuous stares for a child that wasn't even hers. He had once thought that if she were truly only in it for the money, he would kick her out. But every time he was about to say the words, he would see Austin drawing while she sat beside him cutting fruit, as patient as a real mother, and he couldn't bring himself to do it. He used to think that if she knew he had been aware of everything all along, perhaps she would have stayed. Or, if he had just said the words, I love you, she wouldn't have packed her suitcases, or used that choked-up voice to tell him to have a good evening. But he didn't say it because he was afraid. He was afraid that if he opened his mouth, his facade of a cold, domineering husband would shatter. He was afraid she would ask him in return what he loved her for, and he wouldn't have a good enough answer to make her stay. It wasn't until he stepped into that house in a strange foreign land and saw her sitting among a group of children, smiling as if she had never been hurt, that he realized he was too late. When he told Harper to stage a fake wedding, he had wanted to make Emily mad. He wanted to drag her back, not because she owed him, but because he owed her too much. He had used her lie to build a world and then forced her to live in it for 7 years. When he found out she was planning to leave completely without a trace, he suddenly felt choked up. Julian, a man who had stood at the absolute pinnacle, couldn't hold on to a woman who wanted to let go. He remembered the first time she sat on his lap, trembling as she said she would be a good mother. He had thought to himself, "Don't try so hard, just being yourself is enough." But he never said the words out loud. He remembered the time she cried on the bed, her tears falling onto his hand. He had asked if she hated him that much. But what he really wanted to ask was if she had ever loved him. He used to think that love didn't need to be spoken, but for someone like her, who was always insecure and always stepping back, if he didn't say it, she would never know. He penned down his deepest thoughts, hoping that if she ever read those lines, she would know he hadn't chosen her because she was the child's mother. He hadn't chosen her because he was forced to marry. He chose her because the very first time he met her, she smiled at him, the only smile that carried no ulterior motives. "Emily, I love you," he thought. If he could choose again, he would walk up to her, hold her hand, and tell her not to pretend to be anyone else. Just being herself was enough. Her studio became successful, and Austin excelled in school. As for Liam, he pretended to go on business trips every day just to eat the cookies she made. They fought like cats and dogs, fighting over the remote and even fighting over Austin. But he liked it that way. Because for the first time, he no longer had to play the role of CEO Julian. He was just a man learning how to love the woman he had once hurt all over again. And this time, he wouldn't let her walk out that door ever again. Even if he had to spend the rest of his life making it up to her. The story ends here.
What an emotional ending. It turns out the sacred word mother isn't defined by a DNA test, but by an unconditional love. Genuine affection always outshines in. Above all, happiness only truly lasts when we bravely drop our masks and live authentically. Which character stood out to you the most? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.